The gun was 3 inches from Maya Carter's face when she noticed the safety was off. Most people would have frozen. Most people's heart rates would have spiked past 180. Their hands would have trembled. Their voices would have cracked. But Maya just stared at the masked man holding the Glock 19, her pulse steady at 72 beats per minute, and said, "That's a competition trigger. You know what that means?" The gunman blinked behind his ski mask. His partner, younger and visibly shaking, had the cook and the only customer pressed against the wall of Ray's 24-hour cafe. It was 2:47 in the morning in West Side Chicago, and the fluorescent lights hummed overhead like dying insects. "Shut up," the first gunman said, but his voice wavered. Maya set down the coffee pot she'd been holding, her movements slow and deliberate. "It means you've got about a 3-pound trigger pull instead of the standard 5.5. Real easy to fire accidentally. Real easy to catch a murder charge when all you wanted was the $300 in that register." I said, "Shut up. You've got 90 seconds before shift change brings 6 patrol cars past this block. You know what happens when cops hear gunshots during shift change? They don't wait for backup, they just come in shooting." Maya's voice was flat, almost bored. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to take whatever's in that register. You're going to walk out that door and you're going to disappear before this turns into something you can't walk away from." The second gunman looked at his partner. "Man, maybe we should—" "Shut up, Dex." The first gunman's hand tightened on the Glock, and Maya saw his finger twitch against that competition trigger. 3 pounds of pressure. That's all it would take. "Your friend just used your name," Maya said quietly, "which means if you pull that trigger, you're not just looking at murder, you're looking at premeditated murder with a witness who can identify you. Your buddy here just gave me enough to put you both away for life. If you're already hooked, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Trust me, you'll want to see where this goes." The silence stretched for 5 seconds. Then 10. The first gunman's hand started to shake. "There's $340 in that register," Maya said. "Take it and go." The gunman grabbed the cash and both men ran. Maya stood there for exactly 3 seconds after the door slammed shut. Then, her knees buckled slightly and she gripped the counter. The cook was crying. The customer was on his phone with 911. And Maya was staring at her hands, wondering why they weren't shaking. Across the street, sitting in a black Mercedes that cost more than Maya had earned in the past 3 years combined, Jinsu Park watched the whole thing through the diner's grimy windows. "She didn't flinch," he said softly. Darius, his lieutenant, sat in the passenger seat, with his hand resting on a gun beneath his jacket. "Could be shock, could be stupid." "No." Jinsu leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Maya as she poured herself a cup of coffee with steady hands. "That was training. That was someone who's seen worse." "You sure about this, boss? We don't know nothing about her, except she slings hash for $12 an hour." Jinsu smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "That's exactly why I'm sure. Someone with that kind of composure doesn't end up in a place like this unless they're running from something. And people who are running don't ask questions. They just survive." "You want me to run a background check?" "I already did, 3 nights ago." Jinsu started the engine. "Her name is Maya Carter, 28 years old, moved to Chicago 18 months ago from nowhere anyone can track. Works at Ray's, keeps her head down, pays cash for everything. No social media, no friends, no family that I can find." "Ghost." "Exactly." Jinsu pulled away from the curb. "Which means she's either running from something very bad, or she is something very bad. Either way, I want to know which." 3 days later, the security footage went viral. Ice-cold waitress, talks down armed robber was shared 40,000 times in 12 hours. News vans showed up outside Ray's. Customers started filming Maya, asking for selfies, treating her like some kind of hero. Ray, the owner, a 60-year-old man with 3 ex-wives and a gambling problem, called her into his office on Thursday afternoon. "You're done," he said without preamble. Maya had known it was coming. She'd been fired from 4 jobs in 18 months, always for the same reason. She drew attention, and attention was the one thing she couldn't afford. "Okay," she said. "That's it? Just okay?" "What do you want me to say, Ray?" "I don't know. Most people would argue. Ask for another chance. Maya picked up her apron from the desk. I'm not most people. She walked out of Ray's with everything she owned in a garbage bag and $340 in her pocket. The irony wasn't lost on her. Same amount the gunman had taken. Her apartment had an eviction notice taped to the door. 72 hours to vacate. She unlocked the door, dropped the garbage bag on the floor, and sat on the edge of her mattress. The room was sparse. No photos on the walls. No personal items except for a locked metal box she kept under the bed. Maya pulled out the box and stared at it for a long moment before opening it with a key she wore on a chain around her neck. Inside was a police academy certificate with her name on it, a Chicago PD badge that had belonged to her father, Detective James Carter, a Beretta M9, and a newspaper clipping, yellowed and creased from being folded and unfolded too many times. Narcotics Detective James Carter dies in prison. Corruption scandal rocks CPD. She was 26 when her father was arrested. Top of her class at the academy, 3 months from graduation, a future that had looked bright and clear. Then the FBI raided their house at 5 in the morning, and everything she thought she knew turned out to be a lie. Her father had been on the take for years. Protection money, evidence tampering, planting drugs on suspects who wouldn't pay. The kind of corruption that didn't just end careers, it destroyed lives. They'd offered Maya witness protection, a new name, a new life, a chance to disappear and start over. She'd said no, because she didn't want someone else's identity. She wanted no identity at all. So she'd walked away from the academy 2 weeks before graduation, walked away from the FBI, walked away from everyone who'd ever known her, and she'd spent the last 18 months being invisible. Until 3 nights ago, when she'd stared down a Glock 19 and couldn't stop herself from showing exactly what she was. Maya locked the box and shoved it back under the bed. She needed to find a new job, a new apartment, a new city, probably. Somewhere the video wouldn't follow her. She was counting her money when someone knocked on her door. Maya froze. Nobody knocked on her door. Nobody knew where she lived. She pulled the Beretta from the box, checked the magazine, and moved to the door silently. Through the peephole, she saw a man in an expensive suit. Korean. Mid-30s. Handsome in a way that was almost unreal, like someone had designed him specifically to be intimidating and attractive in equal measure. Behind him stood another man. Bigger, older, hand inside his jacket. Maya's finger moved to the trigger. The man in the suit looked directly at the peephole, as if he knew she was watching. Miss Carter, he said, his voice polite and perfectly controlled. My name is Jin-Soo Park. I'd like to discuss a business opportunity. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to offer you a job. Maya didn't open the door. I'm not interested. You were fired today. You have 72 hours to vacate this apartment. You have $340 to your name. He paused. I'm offering you 5 minutes of conversation. If you don't like what you hear, I'll leave and you'll never see me again. But if you do like it, I can solve every problem you currently have. How do you know how much money I have? Because I know everything about you, Miss Carter. Or rather, I know everything about the person you've been for the past 18 months. The person you were before that is considerably more interesting. Maya's blood went cold. She kept the gun in her hand and opened the door 6 inches, the chain still engaged. Jin-Soo smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. May I come in? No. Fair enough. He glanced at his associate, who took 3 steps back, giving them space. 3 nights ago, you identified a Glock 19 with a competition trigger in the dark while someone was pointing it at your face. You calculated police response time and shift, changed patterns under extreme pressure. You talked down 2 armed men using tactical psychology that most trained negotiators couldn't have executed better. So you're not a waitress. You're something else pretending to be one. Jin-Soo tilted his head slightly. Detective James Carter's daughter, top of your class at Chicago PD Academy, marksmanship awards, defensive tactics instructor recommended you for SWAT evaluation, and then your father was arrested and you disappeared. Maya's hand tightened on the gun. Get to the point. I run a club in River North, high-end clientele, celebrities, politicians, people who need discretion and security. I need someone who can manage the floor, read a room, spot trouble before it starts. Someone with instincts. He paused. Someone like you. I'm not a bodyguard. I'm not offering you a bodyguard position. I'm offering you a chance to be visible again. On your own terms. Jinsu reached into his jacket slowly, maintaining eye contact. He pulled out a business card and slid it through the gap in the door. 2-week trial, $800 a week, cash. If you prove yourself, the salary increases to $3,500 plus housing. You work the floor, you watch, you learn. You keep your head down and your mouth shut about what happens in the back rooms. And if I see something illegal, you'll see many things. The question is whether you can prioritize your own survival over principle. Jinsu took a step back. You have 12 hours to decide. If you're interested, be at this address tomorrow night at 9. If you're not, I'll make sure the viral video disappears from the internet, and you can go back to being invisible somewhere else. He turned and walked away. Maya stood in her doorway, holding a business card that read Lotus Club in elegant silver letters, and felt something she hadn't felt in 18 months. Hope and terror. Because hope meant caring about something, and caring about something meant having something to lose. The next night, Maya stood outside the Lotus Club at 8:55, wearing the only clean clothes she owned that didn't smell like grease and coffee. The building was sleek, modern, with a line of people waiting behind velvet ropes and 2 massive bouncers checking IDs. She walked to the front, and one of the bouncers looked her up and down with barely concealed disdain. Back of the line, sweetheart. Maya held up the business card. Jinsu Park is expecting me. The bouncer's expression changed instantly. He spoke into a radio, and 30 seconds later, a side door opened. Darius, the man who'd been with Jinsu at her apartment, gestured for her to enter. The interior of the Lotus Club was beautiful in a way that made Maya's stomach turn. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, women in designer dresses that cost more than her yearly rent, men in suits that probably cost even more. Music pulsed through hidden speakers, just loud enough to cover conversations, but not so loud you couldn't think. Darius led her through the main floor, past private booths where she caught glimpses of faces she recognized from television, and up a staircase to a quieter level. He knocked on a door at the end of a hallway, and Jinsu's voice called out, "Come in." The office was as elegant as the man himself, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline, a desk that looked like it had been carved from a single piece of dark wood. Jinsu sat behind it, reading something on a tablet. He looked up when Maya entered and smiled. "You came. I need the money. Honest, I appreciate that." He gestured to a chair. "Sit." Maya sat, keeping her back straight and her hands visible. Jinsu studied her for a moment, and she forced herself not to look away. "Let me be very clear about what I'm offering," Jinsu said. "This is not a normal job. The people who come here are not normal people. They're powerful. They're connected. And they're used to getting what they want. Your job is to make sure they get it without causing problems. You manage the floor staff. You watch for trouble. You handle situations before they escalate. And the back rooms? You don't go in the back rooms. You don't ask about the back rooms. You pretend the back rooms don't exist. What happens in them?" Jinsu's smile faded. "Business that keeps the city running. Business that you don't want to know about. Illegal business. That depends on your definition of illegal. But yes, if that's a problem, the door is right there." Maya looked at him for a long moment. She thought about her father, about the choices he'd made, about how he'd justified every corrupt thing he'd ever done by telling himself it was just survival, just business, just the way the world worked. And then she thought about the $340 in her pocket, the eviction notice, the 18 months of being invisible. "It's not a problem," she said. Jinsu's smile returned. "Good. You start tonight. You'll shadow Marcus. He's my floor captain. He'll show you the ropes. 2 weeks. If you can handle it, we'll discuss the permanent position." The first week was harder than Maya had expected. Not because of the work, which was straightforward enough, but because of how easily she fell back into old patterns. reading body language, spotting threats, moving through a room like she owned it. Marcus was a good teacher, mid-40s, charming, with the kind of smile that made people trust him instantly. He'd been with Jinsu for 6 years, and he knew every inch of the Lotus Club. "Boss doesn't trust easy," Marcus told her on the third night, as they watched the main floor from a balcony overlooking the dance area. "The fact that you're here means something. It means I need money and he needs staff." Marcus laughed. "Nah, he's got plenty of people who need money. He could hire any of them. He hired you, because you're different. Because you see things other people don't." "What makes you think that?" "Because I've seen the video. You didn't just talk those guys down. You read them. You knew exactly what buttons to push." Marcus glanced at her. Jinsu likes people who can think under pressure. People who don't panic. And what does he do with people who do panic? He doesn't keep them around long enough to find out. On the fifth night, Maya handled her first real test. An Illinois state senator, drunk and handsy, cornered one of the waitresses near the bar. Maya saw it happening from across the room and moved quickly, inserting herself between them with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Senator Morrison," she said pleasantly, "can I get you anything? Coffee? Water? A car home?" The senator looked her up and down. "I'm fine right here, sweetheart." The waitress, a girl named Sophie who couldn't have been older than 22, looked terrified. Maya kept smiling. "I'm afraid I'm going to have to insist. Club policy. We take very good care of our staff." "Do you know who I am?" "I do, which is why I'm giving you the opportunity to leave quietly before this becomes something neither of us wants it to be." Maya's voice dropped, losing its pleasant edge. "There are 14 cameras in this room. All of them recorded you grabbing Sophie. Now, you can leave with your dignity intact, or I can have Darius escort you out and make sure that footage ends up on the right desks. Your choice." The senator's face went red. For a second, Maya thought he might actually try to escalate. Then he looked past her and saw Darius standing near the stairs, watching with cold eyes. He left without another word. Sophie looked at Maya with something like awe. "Thank you. Don't thank me. Just tell me if anyone else makes you uncomfortable." From the VIP section, Jinsu had watched the entire exchange. When Maya's eyes found his, he raised his glass slightly. Approval. The second week got harder. Maya started noticing things she wasn't supposed to notice. Cash being moved through back hallways in duffel bags. Men in expensive suits meeting in private rooms for 30 minutes and leaving with briefcases they hadn't arrived with. Phone conversations that ended abruptly when she walked past. She said nothing. She watched. She learned. And she felt herself changing. On the last night of her trial period, everything went wrong. Tony Moretti Jr. walked into the Lotus Club with 3 of his friends, all of them drunk and looking for trouble. Maya knew who he was, the son of Vincent Moretti, head of one of Chicago's oldest Italian crime families. Cocky, reckless, the kind of man who'd never been told no in his life. He was loud. He was obnoxious. He grabbed at the waitresses and laughed when they pulled away. And when Maya approached his table with her professional smile firmly in place, he looked at her like she was something he could break. "Gentlemen," Maya said calmly, "you've had a great night. Let's end it on a high note. Drinks are on the house. There's a car waiting outside whenever you're ready." Tony leaned back in his seat. "What if I'm not ready?" "Then you're choosing to disrespect Mr. Park and his own establishment. And I don't think your father sent you here to start a war over bottle service." Tony's friends went quiet. Tony's smile faded. He stood up, and suddenly he was in Maya's space, close enough that she could smell the whiskey on his breath. "You've got a mouth on you. I've been told. Let me tell you something, sweetheart." Tony's hand moved to his jacket, and Maya saw the knife before he even pulled it. "I don't give a damn what your boss thinks. You don't talk to me like—" Maya's hand shot out, catching his wrist before the knife cleared his jacket. She twisted, and Tony yelped as his wrist bent at an unnatural angle. The knife clattered to the floor. Maya kicked it away and stepped back, her hand still gripping his wrist. The entire club went silent. Tony's friends stood up. Darius and 3 other security members materialized from nowhere, surrounding the table, and Jinsu Park walked down from the VIP section, his footsteps echoing in the sudden quiet. He looked at Tony, then at Maya, then back at Tony. "You came to my establishment," Jinsu said softly. "You disrespected my staff. You pulled a weapon. If this were my father's time, you'd already be in the river." He paused. "But I'm not my father, so I'm going to give you one chance to leave with your dignity. Take it." Tony looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Jinsu's eyes stopped him. He left. Jinsu turned to Maya. "My office, now." The walk upstairs felt like it took hours. Maya's heart was pounding now, the adrenaline finally catching up with her. She'd broken a maid guy's wrist in front of witnesses. She'd just signed her own death warrant. Jinsu closed the office door behind them and poured 2 glasses of whiskey. He handed one to Maya. "You weren't supposed to break his wrist," he said. "He wasn't supposed to pull a knife?" "Fair point." Jinsu sipped his drink. "Where did you learn to disarm someone like that?" "Police Academy, defensive tactics." "You've been holding back." "You asked me to watch and learn." "I did." Jinsu studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled. Actually smiled, not the cold, controlled expression he usually wore, but something genuine. "Your trial period is over," he said. "I'm offering you the permanent position. Floor manager, $3,500 a week, cash, housing stipend, full protection. You report directly to me." "Protection from what?" "From whatever you've been running from for the last 18 months. You work for me, no one touches you. Not cops, not rivals, no one." Maya looked at the whiskey in her hand. "What do you get out of this?" "Someone I can trust to watch my back. Someone who doesn't need to shoot first because they're smart enough to see trouble coming." Jinsu set down his glass. "I've been running this operation for 4 years, since my father was killed by the Irish mob over a territorial dispute. Every day, I have to be colder, harder, more ruthless than he was just to survive. I don't enjoy it, but I won't apologize for it either." "I'm not asking you to apologize." "Then what are you asking?" Maya drained her whiskey. "I'm asking if there's a version of this where I don't become my father." "I don't know," Jinsu said quietly. "But if there is, I'd like to find out." Something passed between them in that moment. Understanding, recognition. 2 people who had lost everything and built themselves back from nothing. Maya extended her hand. "Deal." Jinsu shook it, and his hand was warm and steady and dangerous. 3 months passed in a blur. Maya moved into an apartment Jinsu owned in River North. Designer furniture, a view of the skyline, a closet full of clothes that actually fit. She barely recognized herself. The work came naturally. Too naturally. She managed the floor with quiet authority. The staff respected her. The clients learned quickly not to test her. And Jinsu, he watched her with something that might have been admiration, or might have been calculation. Maya couldn't always tell. They fell into a routine. Late nights in his office after the club closed, reviewing security footage and discussing problems. Small moments of connection. Him bringing her coffee the way she liked it. Her fixing his tie before important meetings. Conversations that lasted until dawn. Darius noticed. "Boss is different around you," he told her one night. "Lighter." "I haven't noticed." "Yeah, you have." Maya didn't argue, but there were darker moments too. Moments when she saw things that reminded her exactly what world she'd stepped into. Bloodstains that appeared in back hallways and disappeared by morning. Men who came to meet with Jinsu and never left through the front door. Cash and drugs and weapons moving through the club like ghosts. She said nothing. She watched. And she felt pieces of herself dying. Late one night, 3 months after she'd started, Maya was alone in Jinsu's office reviewing security footage. It was a habit now. She liked to check for patterns, threats, anything unusual. That's when she saw it. Marcus, on camera from 2 nights ago, meeting someone in the alley behind the club. Maya enhanced the image and felt her stomach drop. The man Marcus was talking to was a known associate of the Moretti family. She checked other footage, found 3 more meetings over the past month, all at odd hours, all secretive. Marcus was feeding information to the Morettis. Maya's hand hovered over her phone. She should call Jinsu. Tell him immediately. But something stopped her. If she was wrong, she'd destroy Marcus. If she was right and she told Jinsu now, Marcus would be tipped off. He'd run or fight, and people would die. So Maya made a decision. She'd handle it herself. The meeting was set for Friday night. High-stakes poker game in a warehouse on neutral ground. Jinsu, Darius, Marcus, and several VIP clients. The Moretti family would be there too. Separate table, keeping up appearances of peace. Maya wore a concealed holster for the first time in 18 months. The Beretta M9 felt heavy against her ribs. The warehouse was exactly what she'd expected. Industrial. Cold. 2 poker tables set up with professional dealers. Armed men lining the walls, everyone pretending this was civilized. Jinsu played cards with the calm of a man who knew he was the most dangerous person in the room. Marcus was at his right hand, smiling and joking like nothing was wrong. Darius stood behind Jinsu, watching everything. Maya circulated, playing her role. Friendly, professional. But her eyes never stopped moving. She noticed the new waitress. The kitchen, staff positioned wrong. Exit doors propped open, and Marcus, checking his watch every few minutes. Maya moved closer to Jinsu and leaned down, her lips near his ear. "We need to leave, now." Jinsu didn't look at her, but his hand stilled on his cards. "What did you see?" "Everything. Trust me." Jinsu had learned to trust her instincts. He stood, gathering his chips. "Gentlemen, I apologize, but..." The doors exploded inward. 4 gunmen burst in, led by Tony Moretti Jr., his face twisted with rage and revenge. He had a gun in each hand, and he was screaming something Maya couldn't hear over the sudden chaos. Darius moved first, tackling Jinsu behind the poker table. A bullet caught Darius in the shoulder, and he went down hard. Marcus dove away from Jinsu, not toward him, away. Maya's training took over. She pulled the Beretta, dropped to one knee, and fired twice. Center mass. The first shooter went down. The second shooter turned toward her, and Maya put 2 rounds in his chest before he could aim. Screaming, running, the VIP client scrambling for cover. Jinsu was on the ground, bleeding from his side. Darius was trying to get up, his shoulder a mess of blood. The third shooter had a clear shot at Jinsu. Maya didn't think. She just moved. She threw herself between them and fired. The shot was desperate. 20 feet. Moving target. But the academy training was still there, buried under 18 months of running, and the bullet found its mark. The shooter dropped. Tony Moretti Jr. grabbed Marcus, using him as a human shield, a gun pressed to his head. "Looks like your boy here sold you out, Park." Tony's voice was shrill with adrenaline and cocaine. Jinsu, bleeding and pale, looked at Marcus. "Is that true?" Marcus was crying, pathetic. "They threatened my sister, Jin. I didn't have a choice, I swear. I didn't—" "You always have a choice," Maya said coldly. Tony aimed his gun at her. "Smart bitch, shame you gotta die." With him. Sirens. Someone had called 911. Tony hesitated. That moment of hesitation was all Maya needed. She didn't shoot. She just stared at him, her gun steady, her eyes empty. "Shoot through me," she said quietly. "See what happens." Tony's hand was shaking. The sirens were getting closer. And then the Moretti boss, Vincent himself, appeared in the doorway. "Anthony, stand down, now." "But Dad, I said now." Tony looked at his father, at Maya, at the gun in her hand that never wavered. He ran. Darius got Jinsu and Maya out through a back exit. They piled into the Mercedes, and Darius drove despite his wounded shoulder, running red lights and side streets until they reached Jinsu's safe house outside the city. The lake house was quiet, peaceful, the opposite of everything they'd just survived. Maya stitched Jinsu's side wound at the kitchen table, her hands steady despite everything. Medical training from the academy. She'd almost forgotten. "You saved my life," Jinsu said through gritted teeth. "You gave me one when I didn't have one. You killed 3 people tonight." Maya's hands paused. "I know." Does that bother you? Yes, she met his eyes. But not enough to regret it. Jinsu reached up, his hand touching her face. Blood, and gunpowder, and something deeper. Who are you, Maya Carter, really? And Maya told him. Everything. Her father, the academy, the corruption, the choice to disappear, the 18 months of being invisible, the locked box under her bed with all the pieces of her old life. I didn't want a new identity, she said. I wanted to be no one, and then you gave me a chance to be someone again, even if that someone lives in the dark. Why didn't you tell me you were carrying a gun? Would you have trusted me if you knew? I trust you now. The kiss was inevitable, slow, desperate, built on blood and survival, and the recognition that they'd both chosen this darkness together. When they finally pulled apart, Jinsu said, "We have a Marcus problem." I know. He's already dead. The Morettis will kill him for failing, or we will. Maya shook her head. We need his confession on record first. Proof that Tony set this up. If the other families think you're weak or this was random, you'll have 5 more ambushes by next month. You need to control the narrative. Jinsu smiled. What do you suggest? Let me talk to him. Maya met Marcus at Navy Pier at dawn, wearing a wire that Jinsu and Darius were monitoring from a van 2 blocks away. Marcus looked terrible, scared, desperate. Jinsu's willing to let you run, Maya lied smoothly. Witness protection, new life, but we need everything you know about the Moretti operation. Marcus believed her because he wanted to, because people always believe what makes them feel safe. He confessed everything. The meetings, the payments, Tony's plan, how it was supposed to go down. You're really going to let me walk? Marcus asked when he was done. I didn't say that, Maya replied. I said Jinsu was willing. I'm not him. Marcus saw the trap too late. He reached for a gun, and Maya broke his wrist with the same move she'd used on Tony. Muscle memory. Training that wouldn't die no matter how long she ran. Jinsu's crew surrounded them. You are family, Jinsu said quietly. That's the only reason you're still breathing. Marcus was taken away. Maya didn't ask where. She didn't want to know. 6 months later, Maya Carter sat in a private meeting room in the Lotus Club, watching the major players of Chicago's underworld negotiate territory like they were trading baseball cards. She sat beside Jinsu, not behind him, not as staff, beside him as an equal. The Moretti boss, Vincent, was demanding reparations for his dead men. Jinsu refused. The Irish crew watched with predatory interest. The Russians looked bored. Your son orchestrated an ambush on neutral ground during a peace negotiation, Jinsu said calmly. There are no reparations. You killed 3 of my soldiers. They died committing an act of war. I'm offering you peace. Take it. Vincent started to respond, but the door crashed open. Tony Moretti Jr., drunk and furious and scarred from where Maya's bullet had grazed him 6 months ago, stumbled in with a gun. Fuck, peace! He screamed. You humiliated me, Park. The gun was aimed at Jinsu's head. Maya stood. She didn't draw a weapon, didn't move toward Tony. She just stood and stepped in front of Jinsu, her body between him and the gun. Move, Tony snarled. No. 20 seconds of silence. Nobody breathed. I said move, bitch. Maya's face was empty. Cold. The same expression she'd worn when she talked down 2 gunmen in a diner at 2 in the morning. The same expression she'd worn when she killed 3 men to save Jinsu's life. If you pull that trigger, she said quietly, this room becomes a graveyard. Starting with you. Darius and Jinsu's entire crew had weapons drawn now, all aimed at Tony, the Irish crew, the Russians. Everyone had chosen sides in that instant. Vincent Moretti stood up. Anthony, put it down, now. He disrespected us. I said, put it down. Tony's hand was shaking. The gun was 3 inches from Maya's face. Just like that night in the diner, full circle. But this time, Maya wasn't scared. This time, she knew exactly who she was. Last chance, Vincent said. Put it down, or I'll put you down myself. Tony lowered the gun. Vincent looked at Jinsu, then at Maya. Who is she? She's family, Jinsu said simply. Vincent nodded slowly, understanding, respect. Then we have a deal. After everyone left, after the club closed and the staff went home, Maya and Jinsu stood alone on the empty dance floor. The lights were dim, the music silent. Chicago spread out below them through the massive windows. Any regrets? Jinsu asked. Maya thought about her father, the academy, the person she'd been 18 months ago, the person she'd become. I killed people. I chose this life. I can't go back. That's not what I asked. Maya turned to look at him. This man who'd seen her when she was invisible, who'd given her a chance to be someone again, who'd trusted her with his life. No regrets, she said. For the first time in 2 years, I'm not hiding. What are you now? I don't know yet, but I'm not invisible anymore. Jinsu took her hand, and they stood there in the quiet dark, two people who'd chosen to survive in a world that wanted them dead. Outside, Chicago kept breathing, kept moving, kept spinning through its endless cycle of violence.